Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here, and today I'm going to talk all about ASIC miners, so where to buy them, how to buy them, power consumption, profit, and everything in between. And so I have talked about ASIC miners in some of my previous videos, but I've never gone into specific detail about them. First and foremost, ASIC is an acronym for Application Specific Integrated Circuit. And so basically what that means in the case of miners is that they're going to mine a specific algorithm, and only that algorithm, very, very efficiently, more efficiently than your GPU, your computer can. Pretty much blows everything out of the water for the most part. There are a couple miners that mine various algorithms, but for the most part they are very specific in terms of what they are going to hash and what coin is going to come out of them. So another thing about ASIC miners that you might have to know is that they're very expensive, but again, of course, they get you more profit than a GPU can. So first and foremost, one of the most popular miners out there is from Bitmain, and that is the S9, L3, and D3 miners. So first and foremost, we have the L3 on here. I'm actually at the product page on Bitmain, and a lot of these ASIC miners come from China. So when you actually go to buy them, you have to either set up a bank transfer or pay in a specific coin or something like that to get it here. So the Antminer, for example, is $1,586. The Antminer S9, so the L3 is $1,586. The S9 is $2,725, and all of these prices have gone up. The last time I looked at the S9 miner, it was, I think, $1,480 something, so it was just under $1,500. And of course we have the D3 as well, and usually these are all sold out, so you have to actually sort of be watching. It's best to follow the Twitter of the particular manufacturer of the ASIC miner that you want, and if you follow their Twitter, once in a while they will post when a new batch is available for you to purchase. So you do also have to watch what you're buying as well. So for example, the D3 miner mines Dashcoin, and it mines at 15 gigahash per second. So that sounds like a lot, but I actually brought up a Dashcoin miner calculator here, and it's really not that much. So $5.81 a day for the Dash miners. Dash miners are just not doing so hot right now. The InnoSilicon Dash miner is pretty legit at 32.5 gigahash, but even then, it's only about twice as fast. So we could put 32. Let's just put it at 33 just to even that out, and it's still only $12.77 a day. Another good thing to check is actually the NiceHash profitability calculator. This is a great source of info for GPUs and ASICs alike. And so when you first get onto this page, you can actually find all the ASICs in order of how much they're actually getting. And right now, the Baikal Giant B is absolutely dominating the competition at $382 a day. And actually, I just saw this upon making this video. And so the Baikal Giant B is brand new, and good luck ordering it, but you can give it a try because they're usually sold out very quickly. So we can check out the Giant B, and while that's coming up there, most of these sites are from China and take a little while. I think it loaded pretty quick. But for the most part, for a while now, the Baikal Giant X10 was dominating the scene at anywhere from, I've seen it as low as $30 a day to as high as $70-something a day. And this is mining Quark. So the Giant B right now at $382 a day, I don't think that will last for that long. And the reason why these two are really high, the Baikal miners, is because these are the only miners that really, that really mine unique coins. For example, the Giant X10 mines numerous coins, and the Giant B mines a lot of coins as well. So we can go to the shop here and see if one is available. I kind of doubt it. Announcement on coming. And to actually get the price of these, you have to, excuse me, losing my voice today. You have to email them at Baikal Miner to get a price. And so payment currently accept US dollars. Please contact customer service for the corresponding price. I believe I saw somebody on Twitter that had posted that they had received a response for I think $2,750 for the giant B, which sounds like a lot, and of course it is to get into at first. But if you look at $382 a day, that's pretty insane. And mind you, this is nice hash too, so when you're using one of your ASIC miners or even a GPU on this site, you're really actually not mining. You're mining the specific coin, but you're actually getting paid out in Bitcoin. So sellers are setting a price, and then you're mining for a specific price. So if you actually connect your ASIC miner to a specific pool, then you can mine those coins yourself directly. So for example, this particular miner actually mines a number of algorithms, 5, and I think the X10 can mine maybe 8 or more. So the X10 was around for a while, and it looks like the giant B is going to be pushing ahead for now, and that's because it's mining a unique coin at 40 gigahash, and it's really the only one that's doing that. So the S9 miner is mining at $32.10 a day. The S9 mines the SHA-256 algorithm from Bitmain, and that is Bitcoin. So SHA-256, if you're mining SHA-256, that is Bitcoin. And we also have the Antminer R4 that's in a pretty close race at 8.6 terahash. I don't think you can actually buy the R4 anymore unless you buy them from a third party. So when you actually Google some of these ASIC miners, you might see that they're actually a really, really high price if you're not on the specific manufacturer's website. And that's because a lot of companies will buy these in bulk and then up the price by quite a bit. So I have seen some Baikal Giant X10 miners for upwards of $5,000 on some of these third-party websites. And even then, it wouldn't be too bad, because if you're mining at about $66 to $70 a day, in 100 days, you'd make $7,000, and you would certainly pay off your investment. But now, mind you, this does vary quite a bit. I've seen, like, as I said before, I've seen it as low as 30, as high as in the 70s. So whatever the average of that would be, and you would make your money back in a certain amount of time. Another thing to note about some of these ASIC miners, you might wonder, what is this exactly? And really, it's just a tube with a bunch of chips in it, ASIC chips, which are far different from your computer in the fact that, in the sense that you can't just install an operating system on it, you can't play a game on it, you can't run applications on it. It really only does one thing. And you have to buy a big power supply to power these. Now, some of them are different. As you can see, some of the power requirements of the Giant B are pretty low. But for example, the S9 miner requires over 1,400 watts of power, and then it also requires 9 PCIe connectors. So essentially 9 GPU connectors. So if you take a look at this power supply, excuse me, I have here pulled up on Amazon, it actually has 9 VGA slots. And so each one of these slots would actually be plugged into the back of this S9, and then you plug in an Ethernet cable right there, and you hook it up with some software, and you mess around with your router, and then you connect it to a pool, and then it starts working. Mind you, some of these miners are extremely loud too. I implore you to YouTube the loudness of the S9 miner. It sounds pretty much as loud as a vacuum cleaner. Really that loud. Not just a loud fan, but an actual, sounds like a vacuum cleaner. So extremely loud. So if you don't have an extra room or something to put these in, then it could be very annoying to have some of these in your house. If you don't have a basement or a shed or just a storage room of some sort in your house. So the Baikal is a pretty good estimate right now, and again, I think they're about $3,000, but right now that is the most insane income I've ever seen. So $382 a day. So you're mining almost borderline almost a tenth of a Bitcoin every single day, which is just huge. Another one is the InnoSilicon, and I just briefly talked about this. InnoSilicon makes a lot of Dash miner. And Dash miners are pretty cheap overall compared to some of the bigger ones, some of the more expensive ones it is. But Dash mining really just is not too good right now. You just won't make a lot with Dash mining. Another ASIC miner is the Canaan miner, and I'm not sure where these exactly ship from. I think these might ship from overseas as well. And I actually looked into buying one of these one time because they're relatively cheap. You can see this 741 is only $1,450. But when I went to actually buy it, what they want is a bank transfer, and they want the bank transfer from a business account. So how you go about doing that, I really didn't look into that. I suppose I could call my bank and see if they could set something like that up for me. So this is a pretty low-end Asic miner. However, the cool thing about the Kinon, I think it's called, the miner, is that they're daisy chainable, so you can hook multiple up together, and they'll increase their power and work in unison together. So you can keep stacking. So it says here you can 20 Avalon miners to reach 146 terahash. So if you had 20 of these, which would cost you a lot of money, you could have 146 terahash of basically of Bitcoin mining, and that would be quite the income indeed. But good luck getting 20 of them unless you have the money to throw around. Now, all of these are kind of hard to get, so you always have to join a waiting list. They're always just on pre-order. As you can see, pre-order, oncoming, not coming soon, sold out. So they're all just always sold out. So it's really, really hard to get these. So what I recommend is following their Twitter and going on their website every day until you see it open. One interesting thing about Bitmain is that when you actually go to buy these, so if you click on one of these, and they only accept Bitcoin Cash as a payment method. So when you actually go to buy one of these and you add it to the cart and you're ready to check out, what you have to do is send them Bitcoin Cash. They'll await that transaction. Once they have received your Bitcoin Cash, then they will start the order process for you and ship it out eventually. Usually these are on back order for a couple months, so you won't actually receive one for a while. As you can see, this is not shipping out till February 21st or through the 28th, so not for a couple months. So each one of these takes a long time. So what I recommend is taking a look around at the various miners, and if you have the money to spend, you should see some of these Baikal Giant Bees actually popping up on certain third-party websites, and you'll see them for a fairly ridiculous price. So if this is $2,750 as the tweet that I saw, and again, you can just email them and they'll respond to you within usually 10 hours or so, half a day, and they'll respond to you with a price, or they'll just respond to you with a price and saying that they're not available for order right now. But I saw it for $2,750. So if you see this on a third party, it's going to be easily five grand or more. But if you're going to make at least somewhere around $382 a day, which I really don't think that's going to last very long, I think that will plummet within the next few days or so as more people get on these and start hooking up their miners. Really, this is just a matter of supply and demand. There's not a huge demand, or rather, there's not a huge supply right now of these miners, and these are the only miners that are mining Libri at 40 gigahash. So that's why that's really huge. And again, that's why this one's really huge. The Baikal Giant X10 mining Quark. No other ASIC miner out there is mining Quark. And if you try to mine Quark with your CPU and GPU, it does work, but you're not going to get even remotely 10,000 megahash, 10 gigahash, that is, as the Giant X10 does. And again, here's the InnoSilicon A5 Dash Master in overclock mode. So we're talking 38 gigahash for Dashcoin, and that's still only getting you $17.81. And if we can take a look at that, and we'll see if they have a price on here or not. I don't think they do just yet. Either way, I would suspect that these are at least a couple grand. And with that kind of money, you could really just end up buying a couple GTX 1080 Ti's and mine about $15.20 or so a day. And still end up spending less money, and then make it even easier on yourself, because one, you don't actually have to wait for it to ship to you. You don't have to hook it up. You don't have to worry about it breaking down. And not to say that a GTX 1080 can't break down, but they're very, very hardy. GPUs nowadays are extremely hardy, and they just keep ticking, sort of thing. So you can just buy a couple of GTX 1080 Ti's if you really want to mine Dash. And again, I wouldn't recommend mining Dash with the GTX, so disregard that. But if you're just looking to make money, just buying a couple GTX 1080s, popping them in your computer, it's going to be way easier than going out and buying the inner silicon and then overclocking it, ensuring that it stays cool so that it doesn't shut down on you or slow down on you. However, these bicalls I would definitely look out for. Of course, the S9 is going to be working for a little while. The only problem with the S9 is that it's been out for quite a while, so it's starting to age a little bit. It's still one of the best Bitcoin miners out there, but it's starting to age a little bit. And if you do have the money for an Antminer, maybe I would just go with the Bicall miner instead, and maybe just wait to the future till a new Antminer, maybe the S10 or S11, whatever their next Antminer is. I did see a tweet from Bitmain saying that they were working with I think some Japanese developers on some new transistors for their new model that they haven't really discussed yet. So that's some pretty good ideas on the main ASIC miners. There may be other ASIC miners out there, and as you can see, there indeed is, but most of these are really not worth your time. Now there are some older Antminers as well, like there's the S7, and the S7 really isn't going to be making that much, $11 a day, and it takes a lot of power. And that's another topic to talk about. So the Antminer, so if you do get an Antminer, and let's just say the electricity cost for you is 10 cents per kilowatt hour, you're going to be looking at $3.25 in electricity per day, and per month nearly $100 in electricity. Of course, those profits are really going to just dwarf that electricity cost, but if electricity is a big deal to you, then an ASIC miner is probably not up your alley. But if you're one of those people that you know, electricity just is cheap for you wherever you are in your region, or if you don't pay electricity at all, then definitely go for an ASIC miner. But the only problem is you have to buy one of these as well. And I want to talk about that real quick here. So as you can see on this site, on the products, we'll go to the products here. And it might take a little while to load. They do have their own power supplies. You can see these power supplies here, and they're only 105 bucks. So you might wonder, well, why should I buy a $441 power supply when I can just buy this one for $105? Well, these power supplies that they sell, those are 220 power supplies. So if you don't have an extra 220 slot in your house, which most people don't, the only time you really use a 220 slot in your house is either A, your dryer, or B, if you have an electric stove. And I don't think you're going to be unplugging your dryer or your electric stove to run one of these 24/7 through your 220 outlet. So if you are really good at electricity and you can rig up your own 220, all the power to you. This is going to be the cheapest way to do it, and of course anybody that knows anything about electricity knows that 220 is more efficient than 110. Even if you're using the same amount of wattage, there's the inefficiency of 110 compared to 220, and you know, of course it's going to be cheaper. But if you don't, I've seen a lot of videos where people have whole farms going and they'll rig up their own 110 outlets and instead just use these beasts instead, because the S9, if I can find the S9 here, if I have it up, no I don't, so we'll have to click on this one, and it should say the power usage. I believe it's like 1400 and some odd watts, and it should say it somewhere for specifications. And yeah, so 1127 watts for the 11.5 terahertz terahash batch, which basically don't exist anymore. Now it's only the 13 and up that you'll get, and once in a while you'll get a batch that is 13 terahash. Sometimes they'll come out with batches that are 14 terahash, and they use 1372 watts. So that almost uses up the entire wattage of a 1600 watt power supply. And if my electricity knowledge doesn't fail me, which I'm not that great at. A 110 outlet, I think, can only handle about 1650 watts. And at the same time, you would need it on a 20 amp breaker, I believe, because the way you divide it, I think these actually end up using about 15.5 amps. So if you're running this on a 15 amp breaker, it could flip the breaker and then shut down the miner. So make sure that's on a 20 amp breaker. And what I would recommend is, if you don't know what you're doing with electricity, if you hook up too many of these in your house, you can heat up the wiring in your house. You can flip the breaker, so you can turn off your own electricity just by running these. And so I would recommend, if you don't know what you're doing, just hire an electrician. I mean, for maybe $100 or $200, come in and just make sure that everything's running good. And because these are the real deal. So like when you're using a 1600 watt power supply, and of course it's not using every inch of that power supply, you know, you can really get some heated up wires. You can run into some problems. And again, with a power supply, make sure you're always getting like a gold power supply or above. And that's basically an efficiency rating. Gold and platinum are the best. Platinum being the best. Because there's an efficiency rating of power supplies. So if you have an 800 watt power supply, and let's say you're running an 800 watt computer, so you're maxing out your power supply, which you should never do. But just as an example, your power supply is actually drawing more than 800 watts from the wall, because your wall is AC, and then it has to actually transform it into DC power, and there's an inefficiency in there, and it will lose a little bit of power. So it's, you know, instead a gold power supply might be drawing 850 watts, whereas a worse power supply might draw 875 or something. And of course, you never want to draw too much power out of your PSU. But I hope this cleared some things up for you guys. So you always have to just pre-order these. Just follow Twitters and trying to stay on top of the news, because as soon as Bitmain or Baikal announces one of these out on their Twitter, they're gonna be sold out within probably days, and you'll miss the mark, and you might have to wait several more months before you get one, or you have to go on a third-party site and pay probably at least double. So this could be $6,000 on a third-party website, and that doesn't mean you're getting ripped off necessarily. It just means you're paying way more than you could have, and you know, sooner or later you will make your money back. But of course, we never want to pay any more than we actually have to. But hope you guys like it. Hope you guys got some ideas from this video. And as usual, I will see you guys next time.